It's time for bookkeeping, beer, and BS. When you started writing, did you have an end in mind, or was it just like, I'm just going to keep writing stuff until I run out of stuff to write? Like, did you have a time, like, this will be a few months, or it's going to be 16 months, or it's going to be this many pages, or?
I had no idea. Well, that's what I'm getting to. So I wrote 183,000 words, and I had hired somebody to help me, a coach to help me publish a book. And I tell him, hey, I got 183,000 words done. And he's like, that's 800 pages, dummy. Nobody's going to read an 800-page book. Like, it would have been wise to figure out there's 200 words on a piece of paper, on a page, and then like do the math like you just did. I'm not as smart as you, though, so I didn't do that. I just started writing one day and like, figured that.
Hey, lucky you, publisher. I just wrote 4 books.
Yeah.
Work is done.
Yeah. So that was the thing, was I hadn't even sold a book yet. Like, so the idea of like publishing 4 books, not even knowing if anybody would buy one, seemed kind of not a good investment. So then I thought, well, what else could I do? I have all this stuff, and I went back through it, and I had I'd done a good job of like cataloging and organizing things, so I knew what topics were covered where, and a couple things as I went through it the second time, a couple things really jumped out at me. One was the things that we had struggled with. Like, we had problems, we struggled with, let's just say, marketing. Marketing was our biggest struggle, no question. I mean, the hundreds of thousands of dollars we waste on marketing is like obscene and embarrassing, right? Mm-hmm. Had we figured out a couple of key things before that, we wouldn't have struggled with marketing for so long. We wouldn't have wasted all that money. I would have known when to tell the marketing companies you're going in the wrong direction. I would have had the knowledge to push back and say, no, this does not apply to our client. But I hadn't figured out those little tidbits.
Yeah, and they're the marketing company, so you're like, yeah, send it.
Well, you're the expert. You do what you want, because it's working in Houston, so it must work here, right? And that's not how it works all the time. So, and there was just a number of these kinds of things, like things as I'm getting calls from people saying they're struggling with stuff, I say, well, how do you do this over here? And they're like, well, we haven't really worried about that. I'm like, well, solve that problem. The problem you're worried about will be way easier, Mm-hmm. And same thing with managing people. Like that, I'm teaching a leadership team how to manage people. There's very specific skills and strategies, and there's very specific steps. If you do them out of order, it's just way harder, And there's just this kind of recurring theme really begin to jump out. Like we avoid really seemingly hard questions because we want to save time, and we'll get to that later. We never get to that later, and answering that thing will make 3 other things we struggle with a piece of cake.
Yep.
But we don't answer the hard question first. We struggle with the second group of 3 for months or years.
Do you think it's that we don't know the hard question, or we're like afraid to ask it, or we're afraid to answer it?
All the above. So one of the questions is, and my next book one day will be, answer these 10 questions and your life as a business owner is going to be a piece of cake, right? One of them is like, what are we aiming for? Like, specifically, what is this going to look like in 10 years? What will tell us we did this thing or did not do this thing? One of the things that we did well, my partners and I, is we knew from the day we opened the doors what that business was going to look like in 10 years. We knew, we didn't ever map out an organizational chart, but I now coach people through mapping out an organization chart because I knew it so well, because I'd run the same kind of business for somebody else. When I had 63 employees, I knew exactly what that business looked like.
Yeah.
So we were on a rocket ship to that point. But nobody ever wants to figure out what kind of business do I want to have in 10 years. And the reason we don't is because we oscillate between wanting freedom and wanting control. Mm-hmm. And some days we go in, some weeks we go in and we say, I want to build an empire, because what the hell is the point of owning a business if I'm going to have a job in my own company? I want to build a company so I can step away and go hunting for 2 weeks straight if I want to.
You got that right.
I'm just hammering checks while I'm gone. And then 3 weeks later, something really ugly happens, and we come in and we say, well, I can't build an empire. I can't even control what I have now. The last thing I need is more out of controlness. I need to have control over things so things don't get out of whack. I'm going to build a smaller company. Now, we don't say verbally or even consciously big company, small company, but our behavior changes from I'm going to give away lots of control to other people, and I'm going to delegate decision making to other people so I can build an empire and have freedom, to those people can't be trusted. They don't know what the hell they're doing. I'm the only one around here who can make decisions. See what happens when I leave. I want all this control again. And now we're on track to build a small company. And this oscillation back and forth is just all sideways movement instead of forward movement, where if we would declare in the beginning, I'm building a 63-person company that's going to have 2 people in accounting and 4 people in dispatch and a fleet guy and whatever, that's what I'm aiming for. All these little distractions are seen as bumps in the road to get there, not major course corrections.
Yep.
So that's one example of, again, there's probably 7 or 10 pretty big things like that, that if we answer those things, everything else gets easier.